guys, how's it going? Laura with Garden Answer. Today I'm putting together a succulent arrangement for fall, and I'm going to be using all varieties of succulents that can handle a lower light situation. I know that a lot of us don't have a ton of space inside our homes that has really bright light where we can display succulents, which means in the past you may not have had a whole lot of success with them. So I thought showing you some of the top succulents that I think do well in low light might encourage you to try again. So let me just start here, and I'm just going to talk about a few different kinds that do really well. So this one right here is called a jade. I've got a big one right here and a small one. The botanical name you might see on the tag is Chrysula. They're a beautiful, beautiful succulent, and they're so forgiving. In fact, this is the #1 plant I recommend for a beginner because 1, they can tolerate lower light, and 2, they show you when they want to be watered. So their leaves will start to pucker, like they'll start to wrinkle a little bit when they need water. So they'll just tell you, hey, I need some water over here, give me some water, and then they'll be happy. That way it kind of gets you into the groove of how often succulents like to be watered, and they tell you. The next one is called a gasteria, and this variety is called Flow. Beautiful rosette shaped. It almost looks kind of aloe, like an aloe and agave cross. They just bring a beautiful, bold, weighty texture to an arrangement, and they can tolerate low light, which is awesome. And then we've got right here String of Pearls, which I have used several times in low light situations. They don't grow quite as quickly as they would in a higher light situation, but they do just fine. And then on the other side of the table, we've got some Kalanchoe. You might pronounce it Kalanchoe. In our region, we pronounce it Kalanchoe, so that's what I'm going with. There is one variety of Kalanchoe that does particularly well in low light, and it's called just the panda plant. You've probably seen it before. It's got kind of fuzzy blue leaves. We'll put a picture up for you. Fuzzy blue leaves with the kind of chocolate brown markings around. It's just a beautiful plant. I'm going to be using this one though. This is called the Kalanchoe Copper Spoon. See that beautiful kind of coppery color on the top of its foliage there. I thought that this one would be beautiful for a fall arrangement. So this one, if you have it in a super low light situation, it probably won't color up quite as nicely on the top of the leaves, but they do just fine. Where I'm going to be putting this arrangement does get some indirect light, so it'll maintain its color. I have one other gasteria right here. This is Immaculata. See how it's got a little bit of a different shape. It kind of comes up in a fan, kind of more skinny, and it's a really great one to tuck into arrangements. And then 2 others that I really wanted to make sure to mention it, but I'm not going to be using them in this arrangement, are the aloe vera. Just because they're so forgiving, they can handle low light, and a lot of people like to have them around because of the soothing properties of the gel inside the leaves for skin irritations or burns. But they also bring a really beautiful upright texture to arrangements. I really like to use them. And the very last one is a Haworthia. There are so many beautiful Haworthias. My favorite is the zebra plant. They have very distinct white bands, white striping along all their leaves, and they've got a really pretty structure, kind of a solid, weighty structure. So all of these plants do really well in low light. The last one here, which I didn't mention, this is actually not a succulent. It's a Sansevieria, or mother-in-law tongue. This variety is called Bird Nest, and the reason why I'm using it in this arrangement is because I really like the structure, and it actually takes the same kind of care as succulents. Same light, same care, so I can actually like mix it in with succulents and it'll be happy. And since we're dealing with a lot of tonal colors, so we're dealing with a lot of greens, you really have to play on their texture and the structure of the plant so that it really looks like you've got a varied selection. But even better, you can make them seasonal, make a seasonal display out of it like I'm going to do today, and you can tuck in little bright pops of color, like using little artificial pumpkins. I might be using a couple of little owls. I just brought a few things out here that I thought I might tuck in. I've also got some really pretty acorns and pine cones, and I thought that this kind of theme would play off this container really well. We just opened this in a mail time. It's a really neat kind of wood, faux wood looking container, and it does have a drainage hole in it. So what I'm going to do is fill the container with soil, put together the arrangement, and then I want to talk to you about some care tips in the end. it together, and I think it turned out really cute and festive. And I did have 2 owls, so you can see one right here facing toward you, and then there's also one facing toward me, because if I decide to put this on a round table, which I think I'm going to, I really wanted it to look cute from all directions. And then all of the little fall, like little accessories in here, I think made it kind of elevated and brought a little pop of color in. And then for soil top dress, instead of using rocks or bark or sand, I use little pine cones instead. So I kind of have those tucked all the way around the outsides, just covering any excess soil to make the arrangement look finished. So now I wanted to go through a few care tips for succulents. So starting with the soil, because that is one of the most important things. Succulents like a really fast draining soil. They like their roots to get moist quickly, but they want the moisture to go away quickly. So I use just a pre-bagged cactus and succulent soil from Espoma Organic. And then as far as watering goes, you want to be kind of careful because we've got a lot of things going on. Don't really want to make a mess of things. So what I will use is either a really large syringe like this. I can just fill it up and then direct my tip like that, just kind of in toward the root balls. That way I'm just giving it just enough water to moisten the root balls, and that's it. Not enough to really drain out the bottom and make a mess, and it keeps it from like deflecting off of leaves. I have that happen every once in a while when I use a big watering can. So I either use a large syringe or I have a watering can that has a really small spout. And that's easy to kind of direct where I want it to go, kind of the same concept of the syringe. We will link this down below. Now, how often you'll have to water will completely depend on where you set your arrangement, because if you've got yours close to maybe an air vent where heat or air conditioning is blowing, or close to a door where, you know, they're getting a waft from the door, that can dry these things out a lot quicker than if you have it in a more still protected area. So in the wintertime, I typically get all my arrangements on a once a week check schedule. It doesn't mean I'm gonna water them every week, but usually every Saturday, I go through and check all of my houseplants to see whether or not they need it. And it's just good to get yourself on a routine, but I do recommend that you check them every few days after you very first pot them up, like maybe every 2 or 3 days, for maybe the first 2 or 3 weeks, and that way it'll really get you to key in on how quickly it dries out after you very first water it, so you'll kind of know what schedule to put it on. And then fertilizing, I just recommend using a cactus fertilizer maybe once a month. That's typically what I do for mine, and they do really well on that. So the very last thing I wanted to talk about, because I usually get a lot of comments about this on my succulent arrangements, is about how many succulents I used. And I used a lot in this arrangement, and they will be completely fine. Succulents do not mind being packed into close quarters. In fact, it slows down their growth rate quite dramatically. If you were to pot each one of these out in their own individual pots where they had a whole bunch of root room and a whole bunch of room around them, they would grow bigger a little bit quicker. But when you confine their growth space, they don't grow as quickly. So I expect to get even up to a year out of an arrangement like this with just minor grooming. You know, I may need to go in and pop a dried leaf off here or there. I may need to pop one succulent out, you know, in the course of a year, maybe like this jade, for example, if it put on some growth and it was kind of, you know, messing up the aesthetics of this arrangement, I could pop that one out, plant it somewhere else, and that's pretty much it. So about a year out of an arrangement like this without any major overhaul. So that's it, you guys. I really hope you enjoyed this video, learning about some more low light tolerant succulents so that you can have success with them in your own home. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you in the next video. Bye.